Okay. Hi to everyone. I'm Liliana Kukets. I help people to overcome the fear of starting own business and introduce them to risk-sharing turnkey solution for the startup. Today, I'm going to show you what is franchising and how you can benefit from franchising and start your own business with already established business model and the mentor. Here's how I'm going to do it. Just a moment. So I'm going to show you 5 main topics, what you have to master if you would like to start a business with the franchising. And through that topics, I will show you the basic and the power of franchising, what franchising can do for you and why you should or would start the franchise business and how to do it in the right way. I will also reveal you the special bond between women and the franchising. But let's see a little bit about you. If technically we can do it, I hope we will. So I would like to know, did you start your business or are you just thinking to start your business? So if you already start your business, press number 2. If you're thinking to start your business, press number 1 and drop it in your chat box. And please answer in just 2 words. What is or had been your main concern about starting on your own business? So just very brave to see a little bit, to let me know a little bit more about you. Just put 1 if you are thinking to open your business, or number 2 if you already started your business. And what was your main concern to do so? I hope we will be able to do it technically. Okay, I am not sure that it will go like we planned, but anyhow, let's go further. So entrepreneurship, a lot of people would like to start their own business, but on the end, a very small share of them really do. So I will share with you some statistics about Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So those statistics are from the from GEM. It's a global entrepreneurship monitor, very wide research done in 42 countries, I think, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is one of them. So I found the data that 71% of women believe that entrepreneurs have high status in your country. So 42% of women state that it's easy to start a business. So 63% of women believe entrepreneurship represents a good career choice. And 70%, very big, 70% of women are highly likely, to perceive entrepreneurial opportunities. But on the end, 49% of that 70% will not do it. Why? Because of the fear of failure. And actually, we'll go through that later. So actually, fear of failure is very common. But the research showed that in your country is the biggest score in all your region, that fear of failure. But besides fear of failure, there are other fears that really are stopping people to start their own businesses. So it's fear of risk, fear of exit of their comfort zone, fear of losing money, fear of criticism, fear of exposure, because if you start your own business, you have to go out, sell your products and be with the people and so on. Women very often has the fear not to be left alone. They would like to start their own business, to be their own bosses, but they are afraid to be alone out there, to do it by themselves, with any help. Also, the problem, for starting the business is lack of self-confidence, which is very, very common with the female entrepreneurs, a lack of knowledge, support, lack of money, and so on. But there is lack of ideas that people usually don't think it's very important. But we get a lot of inquiry, about, from the people about what they supposed to do. In a sense, a lot of people are calling. I'm the president of the Croatian Franchise Association, and a lot of people are calling us saying, oh, I have 25,000 euro. I would like to start a business. Can you suggest me something? Because I don't know what to do. So we try to find out, okay, what is your interest and so on. But on the end, they said, no, just give me some of the ideas. So this lack of ideas is very, very important. And franchising can actually fill this gap between, the people who would like to start the business and the people who, on the end, really do it. Why? Because franchising can give you the idea, can give you the idea already transferred in a business opportunity and already tested on the market. So in this franchise package, you will get knowledge, skills, transfer through the education and training. You will have already established business system. You will share risk with the entrepreneur who is already on the market, who knows everything about that business. It will be a known brand. You will have a team of your franchise network. And you will have access to the intellectual property and intellectual capital of the franchisor. So franchising can really help. Let's try to see now how we can define the franchising. It's very hard to define it. Why? Because it's very wide. It's multidisciplinary. Actually, it's very complex. It's inside of the 300 industries. So it's globally, it's globally developed. So it's really hard to define, but we will try at least some definitions about what is franchising. So franchising is continuing relationship where franchisor, one party, provides, the privilege license to the other party, to the franchisee, and give them the permission actually to work under his brand and transfer him all the knowledge and the training and everything that the new entrepreneur needs to know to start his business. And the new entrepreneur will pay some kind, we will see later, some kind of monetary consideration to the franchisor. The other definition of franchising is actually that this particular legal form of organization in which development of the business and execution of the business is done by different companies, by two different legal entities. But the definition that I like the most, but it's very picturesque, is the definition that actually franchising is like a marriage. It's a long-term relationship, legally bound, so you agree to enter, you know the basic rules, but you will have to do a lot of adjustments, a lot of compromises if you want this to work, and to celebrate 50th anniversary. So human aspect in franchising is very, very important because, this personal human aspect, this family environment in franchise business and franchise networks is very important that franchise network can work actually, and that everybody can benefit from it. When this personal aspect is damaged, then the business fell down in only business aspect, business relationship, and that already can harm the business. And then if it comes just down on a legal, a relationship where you took out the contract from a drawer, actually that can be bad for business, not only for the business of the franchisee, but for the business of whole network and the franchisor. But let's go through basic franchise terms. I already told you now the franchisor, the franchisee, the franchising, and so on. So Franchisor actually is a person or a company who developed the business model, who already developed the brand, and he grants this right to franchisee to work under his name and on the system that is already established. Then we have franchisee. Franchisee is a person or company who gets the right to work under somebody else's brand and with somebody else's system and politics and so on. So they're franchisee. They're working, their bond is franchise agreement. So let's see what are trademark, because you will heard very, very often, the brand, the mark, the trademark, and so on. So franchisor is the one who developed the trademark, who protected it, and give the right to franchisee to work under his trademark. And franchisee will pay the royalty. I will explain you later what are the royalties and why they are paid. Just to give you a brief description, about all we said until now. And that's we have two main roles: franchisor, who own the trademark, trade name, who provide support, have the business system. We have franchisee, and we have agreement which connect them both. Franchisee is paying the fees to the franchisor for the period of the contract. So, but there is something else. You see, here is a scale. So in order that scale to be in balance, franchisor can or need to give to franchisee also approach the market, the politics of the business, the processes, the system, the training, the support, and so on. And franchisee in return will give to franchisor the capital, the investment, the labor, he will work and he will hire people who will work for him, and he will commit himself to the system, and he will actually has his own business, and he will be his own company. He will not legally be bound with the franchisor, only through the contract. But we are talking about franchise package. Let's see what is inside of that, let's say, franchise package. So in that package, we have the trademark, the brand, which is supposed to be registered, known, not globally known, maybe known in some territory, proven and tested. So that's important for the brand. So in that franchise package, there is a know-how. That know-how has to be established already, of course, tested in a pilot operation, and the franchisor needs to have the experience to be able to sell his franchise business to somebody else. New franchise legislation in your country, it's 1 year that franchisors need to exist on the market before they start to franchising. So they have to test the operation on your market, and then they can clone it to other franchisees. So in that franchise package, there are manuals, and the manuals actually are the only way how the franchisor can transfer the know-how, because know-how is intangible assets. So in order to make them tangible, it has to be written somewhere. Usually it's written in the manuals and in the contract sometime. So manuals are very important, because franchisee will work through that every day through these manuals. I'll go through, because everything will be written inside of the manuals. Then we have education and training. The manuals also are basic for education and training. We have product or service, what will be the base of the business of that franchise concept. And we have, very important, we have inside of the franchise package, we have the ongoing assistance from the franchisor. That's very, very important. So let's this time maybe only about franchising. So I already I didn't tell you, but I will tell you that probably you already know that franchising is very popular for way of doing business, and I'm sure that you are connected it with fast food and fashion. But franchising is much more than fast food and fashion. And each of us are in contact with 5 or 6 franchise concepts every day. Research shows that since we are talking in this, 10 minutes, 2 franchise concepts are established and launched. So every few minutes, one franchise concept globally is launched. So 50% of the world retail is in franchising. Franchising is in more than 300 industries, not only in fast food and in fashion. So actually, franchising has a share of 4.3% in the global GDP. It's a big share. So more than 25,000 brands, franchise brands, exist globally. And that number is every day bigger. So what does it mean? More than 25,000 franchise brands or franchisor exist. Those 25,000 franchisors create more than 3 million franchisees globally. Those 3 million franchisees globally employ more than 25 million people. So actually, that's why franchising is a generator of the entrepreneurship and employment for national economies, wherever it's developed. Only in Europe, there are more than 15,000 franchise brands or franchisors. We will see later. I will show you just a moment here. You'll see that, there is more than 2,000 in France, more than 1,000 something in UK, and other countries very developed in franchise sense are Australia, New Zealand, then Spain, France, UK, Brazil, United States of America, and so on. But what is important, and I think that's also, that's a problem in my country, but I'm from Croatia, but I'm sure that, I know that that's a problem in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as well, that you have very low share of domestic brands on the market. More of them are imported ones. So that's, what we have to work, because actually in the countries where franchising is very developed more, there are more than 90% domestic brands on the market, and only small share of international one. So because franchising can give to local entrepreneurs the power to develop, to grow their businesses regionally and and globally. So that's something where franchising is maybe even more important than only for import of the franchise brands. But let's go through some of misconceptions about franchising, because one of the big misconception is that that success is guaranteed. Because very often the people are connecting franchising only with the mega brands like McDonald's, Subway, Burger King, and so on. And what happened in that moment? So if you go on the internet, you will find out that McDonald's has 37,000 restaurants, that Subway has, I don't know, more than 25,000 or 30,000 restaurants in the world. So it's impressive numbers. It's big. Those are big numbers and very impressive one. And that what happened. You put this social validation, in those numbers, and said, "Wow, if I join, this big brand, I will be successful immediately." But it's not true, because what you don't know, you're supposed to know, and some consultant can tell you, or you can find on the internet if you're digging deeper, that the same brands. For example, Subway, before the pandemic, in 2017, closed 90 restaurants in 1 year. And that means that 900, sorry. That means that 900 people lost their money with the Subway. And the similar thing happening even with McDonald's or with Burger King and some other of those very big brands, because that's, big. Those are big numbers. So you can make really big mistake if you really do this social validation and connect emotionally you with the success of those brands. So the other misconception is franchising is expensive. It doesn't have to be. You can really start your franchise business for very low money. Depend which franchise you choose. In my country, there are some concepts that it's all distribution and franchising. For example, it's a Hungarian brand Fornetti that you can start with zero euro, because you can get everything from them and you start to buy the frozen pastry from them. So you just need to find location and to work on that location, to make that location look like they would like to, and it's not very expensive. So franchising can be low budget investment for good business. And the other misconception is the franchising eliminates risk. No, you're sharing the risk with the already established entrepreneur, but actually you have the risk because you have your own company and everything is on your managerial capability, and franchisor will help you in that moment. So also there's this misconception that said the franchising is too much control and no creativity, and it's not true, because I don't know if in your country there is this say that two heads are more clever than one. Because, if you have the franchise network, you actually have the franchisor and maybe 50 or 100 or 30, heads that will think how to improve the same business. So actually, there is creativity and there is a freedom, and franchisor can benefit from your creativity. So it's not true that it's only control and no creativity. So the other very, very common misconception is that franchise agreements are not negotiable. And that's also not true, because it's almost always negotiable in certain part, not in all maybe, but you need the expert who will do that for you. You need the lawyer for that. It's too serious thing just to live on you or your friends and so on. So another misconception is the franchise network and chain are the same thing. It's not. The franchise network, it seems like a chain, but every part of that network are the separate companies and not owned by franchisor. That in the chains, the franchisor own all the point of sales. So that is the difference between the franchise network and the chain. Let's go through a little bit, through evolution of franchising. So even though it seems like it's something very new, I know that in your country it starts to develop in the end of 70s, but really in 90s, like in most emerging markets. But actually, we can find the roots of franchising even in China in 200 before Christ. When one merchant starts to sell the products door to door, but with a different agents, and in that way he bridges the distances and can widen the market. Actually, franchising is a French word that means free from servitude. So free, yes, you are free to work as the own boss on a certain part of the territory. In beginning of 8th century, during when the Middle Age and the feudalism start, that was some kind of the grant or license to the lord barons and majordomes to collect the fees or the taxes or the bridge tolls and so on. And one part would go to the king and the other part to them. So it was the roots of royalties. And in that period, franchising had this political frame. In beginning of 17th century, there was, also the need for bridge the distance, because of all of that geographical new territories that were discovered. So in that period, also there was, the franchising or some kind of franchising that bridged those distances. So But first, commercial franchise, and actually, when we said that United States of America is a cradle of franchising, we mean about Singer sewing centers. I'm sure you heard about the Singer sewing machines, and he started to produce it on the end of 19th century. But he couldn't sell it because nobody knew how to use it. So that Singer started to open his Singer sewing centers. It was business to business opportunity, especially dedicated to women, and they started to teach them how to use the machine. And then that was some kind of the franchise network. And even in that time, the Frederick Henry Harvey opened a lot of Harvey restaurants in every 100 miles of the railroad from Atchison, Topeka to Santa Fe. And that railroad was 1,200 miles long and 12,000 miles long. And in each 100 miles, he developed one restaurant in franchising. When we are talking about the America and the franchising, we have to mention Benjamin Franklin. He was the entrepreneur, very successful entrepreneur in that time. He was inventor, and he was father of American state. He was one of the president of the America. And but in his entrepreneurial activity, he developed the franchise contract for his printing business. And we know that that franchise contract actually had limited duration for 6 years and limited collaboration, purchasing, and so on. So the people who were signing it couldn't work like they want. It was the system, and it was, the things that how and what they have to do. But also, when we are talking about that time and franchising, we have to mention Martha Matilda Harper, so women, and she was the servant in the house of the rich people, and her mission was to help poor women to become independent through entrepreneurship, through franchising, because she developed the business for hairstyle in the home of the clients. And it was a big demand for her services, so she couldn't do it by herself. So she sold a franchise agreement, franchise territory to other women who served in the houses of the rich people, because she said that only the women that were serving others know what to give the quality service to the people. So she died in 1950, actually, but her franchise network had 500 franchisees and was sold in 1972 to competition. And that was Harper Hairdress Salons. It was all over the world, actually. So another person is very important when we are talking about franchising, and it's Henry Ford. I'm sure you heard about Henry Ford, and he's very famous about the Ford cars, about the production of the cars, and he was able to produce those cars because he invented a moving assembly line. In that assembly line, he could produce much more cars than ever before in the history, because instead of spending, few hours to produce one car, he could produce the car in 12 minutes on the first assembling line. And that helped, in that way, he created American middle class, and the auto industry in America really flourished, but franchising too. So I don't know if we can do that, but, I had the question for you, but I think we will go further now. But the question is, what is connection between Henry Ford and franchising? Just think a little bit about it. What is connection between the auto industry and the franchising? So what's the connection? Connection is that the auto industry needs gas stations, technical assistance, shops on the gas stations for people, hotels, motels, roads, and so on. A lot of that business sector in that time was covered or were covered with the franchising because, again, because it was wide territory, and in order to be able to cover the territory, people would start to selling franchise agreements. But here is how I will show you another thing, because almost in every country, the development of franchising, especially in the 90s, and especially in emerging markets, start in the same way. So let me show you the first photo from the planet Mars. Usually that's how it started. McDonald's is coming in the country, and then McDonald's start to educate the market and to show what franchising is. You know, at McDonald's is very usually the pioneer. So let's speak about franchising in another way. I told you the franchising is startup model. So for starting up, you know, in a more sustainable way. But it's also the growth model for the already established entrepreneurs. And that's these two aspects of franchising. So, and so that's these two aspects. So in a both way, franchising significantly reduces the uncertainty in the riskiest stage of entrepreneurial venture. And those stages are when you start the business and when you're ready to grow the business. So in both that model aspects, franchising is that can help a lot. But let's see what are the types of franchise business. The types are product distribution franchise. This is what I already told you. So actually, product distribution franchise is something that Coca-Cola has. They open the distillery somewhere, they give the franchise to the certain company in the country to open the distillery and then to distributing the Coca-Cola. Very similar is with the tires, with the Goodyear tires or some other, with some auto industry, with some auto dealers too, and so on. So it's product distribution. But of course, when we are talking, what we are talking here mostly is the business format franchising. Business format franchising actually are all of these brands what we are contacting every day, almost every day. So you enter to Vapiano restaurant or to Subway or to McDonald's, and you know that everything is the same. You know, the cashier in the same place, the quality of food is the same, the menu is the same, and so on. So that is business format franchising. And so here we are talking also about the paradox. Paradox is that actually the franchising creates the illusion in the eyes of the customers, you know, your eyes, because when you are, you know, walking through the mall, it seems to you that it's the same business, you know, in your country, in my country, or when you're traveling around, you know, the fashion shops are the same, the McDonald's is the same, and so on, and it gives you the illusion it's the same company. Actually, it's not, because every and each of that restaurants are separate legal entities. They just work under the same name. And you don't have to know that they are in franchising. The important thing is that you get the same service everywhere, that you get what you expected in that brand. Actually, when we're talking about franchising, we have to say also, we can also say that what is not a franchise. Actually, pyramid selling, multi-level marketing, referral marketing, that's not franchising. That's something completely different. Let's speak about advantages, disadvantages, and maybe traits of franchising. So advantages are if you start your business with a franchising, so you will have your independent, legally independent business. It's less risky startup. Why? Because you will get training and education and transfer of know-how and the business secrets from the franchisor to you. You will start already established business with a known brand. So you will get some exclusivity for the territory. Actually, you will be a benefit of the research and development of that franchisor, and you will benefit of economy of scale, because the franchisor will introduce you to his supplier, so you will have reduced price because you belong to the same network. So actually, you will be more ready for market competition, and in that way, you will get better location because you are part of the network. You know? And actually, it will be much more easier to sell, your business if you would like to step up from it later. But here is the sustainability of franchising. I told you that franchising is a sustainable way for starting the business. What that means? That means that if you start your business as an independent entrepreneur, there is only 23% chance that you will still working after 5 years. If you start your business to franchising, there is 92% chance that you will still work after first 5 years. So here's a big difference. Here's the sustainability of the franchise business. Why? Because of the transfer of the know-how, of the business secrets, of the education, of the training, of the mentorship of your franchisor. Because that's the only business where two legal entities, two companies are working and are focused on the success of that business, of your business. So that's why the franchising is the most sustainable way of doing business than the independent startup. So, but there is also disadvantages. Disadvantages is that franchisor is actually the older brother. He is mentoring you, but he will also control you if you are working inside of the system, because you can damage his brand and his reputation on the market. So there will be some restrictions in the contract, but you will have to agree with them if you would like to work with that brand and inside of that system. So there will be financial obligation. You will have to pay something to the franchisor, and I told you already, it's royalties, it's a franchise or initial fee, and so on. So those are, some disadvantages. And one thing is very important, that when you start, the business, and when you work a few years under one brand, you think that your clients are your clients. In franchising, they're not. Actually, those clients are loyal to the brand, not to you. That means they're loyal to franchisor, actually. So that's something, you need to know in advance, that first of all, you cannot that you cannot step out from the franchise and continue to work the same business. First of all, you will lose all your clients, and second of all, it's prohibited by the contract. But that's why, because clients are loyal to the brand, and brand is owned by the franchisor. But franchising can give big advantages to the national economy. Why to the national economy? Because with the help of franchise network, some products and services can come to the end customers outside of very big cities, to the suburbs, to the villages, and so on. So that can help that part of the country to develop. So there are standardized products and services and quality, because franchisor will really insist on that. So franchising gives education and training of new skills to local entrepreneurs. So that can help the rise of national economy as well. So innovations are coming to the country. There are new business models. Even though if you don't want to open a franchise concept, you can look for them on the internet and just getting ideas what you can maybe apply to your own business. Disadvantages for national economy can be maybe a reduction of humanity because, of standardization of the processes in the franchise business, maybe a little bit higher prices than the prices of the local entrepreneurs, and maybe closure of small local businesses because, the big brand is coming in and the network. But actually franchise has resolved that disadvantage as well, because there is this possibility that the local entrepreneurs join the franchise network with their businesses, and work under the brand of the franchise network. So that it's convertible franchise, and that actually in that way, the closure of small local business will be, less dangerous. But there are also threats for the franchisees. Actually, I already told you that the big threat is emotional or social validation. If you think, big numbers, big opening, big brands, and so on, that in the moment when you will join them, you will be successful and rich. It's not the case, and it will most probably it will not be the case, because actually success is 2% inspiration, 27% of perspiration, and 1% of deodorant, like you can see on the photo here on the slide. Actually, you have to work hard if you want to succeed, but you have to do it in your own business or in the franchise business or anywhere else. You have to focus and work hard. So actually, you have to have ability to adopt, somebody else's system and to work under that system. It's very important that your franchisor doesn't have very, very, explosive expansion of the business, because it's very dangerous for him and also for you as a part of the network. And, one of the threats is also if your franchisor didn't give you all the training, education, good one and quality one. That can be the problem. But threats for the market are very, very, just maybe two, that franchising can influence unequal economic development, because it's more focused on the malls and not on city centers maybe, or more on cities, not so much in other small cities and so on. And one of the problems in some country can be Americanization, because a lot of companies are coming from America. So let's answer to the questions. Why would you buy a franchise? We already did that, but now we'll repeat something. First of all, you want to avoid your trials and mistakes. Because trials and mistakes are very, very expensive, and somebody else already did it. Franchisor already paid them. So he will transfer all his experience, skills, knowledge, know-how, and the business secrets to you. So that's really, really important, and it's helpful. So you can have a lot of ideas already established on the market, already proven on the market, and so on through franchising. So it is your legally independent business. You are your own boss, but you're not left alone, because there is somebody who will help you. You have your teammates, the franchisee in the network, and the franchisor. So you will get training, coaching, transfer of know-how. Actually, it's less investment if you think that than to start business alone, because you will not paying trials and mistakes or trials and errors, and you will not have to invest in research and development of your business further. That will do the franchisor. And actually, you will have better conditions with the suppliers, because franchisor will pass you his suppliers maybe, and you will have better prices there. You will be some kind protected of the competition, because you will be the part of the franchise network. And so you will learn, how to lead your business, how to lead your people, your employees, and so on, and how to lead your business. So actually, I already told you what is the sustainability part, and how big it is if you compare starting independent business and the franchise one. But now, before we have 5 minutes of reset, of pausa, I will show you something else why franchising is important. Because you can focus on the job, you can focus on operation. You don't have to lose energy and the focus on everything else, to building up a brand, to building up company, to building up the business model, politics, and so on and so on. You get that already. You will get that through franchising. But when we are talking about focus, I would like to divide with you some statistics. The lack of focus costs global economy more than $450 billion per year. Why? Because we are very proud that about our multitasking. Actually, multitasking is not so effective as previously thought. The people who are prone to multitasking need, in average, 50% more time to do the job, and they usually made 50% more mistakes than the people who are focused on the job. So, multitasking is not so good like we thought before. And I will share with you something that has actually nothing directly to do with franchising statistics, but I'm sure it will be interesting for you. Is that this is that we have temptation, constant temptation to look on our mobile phones. So the average person checks their mobile phone 150 times a day, and that's why we lose focus. Why? Because when we do something, our full focus was 1 minute and 50 seconds, really deep focus, before we were interrupted. Later, we need almost 25 minutes to reach that state of concentration that we had before. These 25 minutes cost the global economy $450 billion per year. So I think that now we can have 5 minutes of reset, and then we will continue more. Thank you. front of their screens as well. So actually, I would like you after this webinar to go on Google or wherever you are, browsing the internet, and try to put franchising or franchise offer, and try to search a little bit what you can find. You will see that there is very big amount of information what you can find there. So, but please don't look at Franchise 500 of Entrepreneur magazine, because that's not real picture of the franchising you can buy, because I told you already, because of this social or emotional validation what you can put in this first 500 brands. Here on this slide, you have some links that you can use and control what you have. Those are the websites where you can find the franchise offers, ready even for your country as well. But the best thing what you can find there is inspiration. Inspiration, even if you don't buy the franchise concept, just to go there to see in your business what you would like to start, what the other did. Maybe you get some nice idea what you can do in your business as well. So, okay. So one very important thing that I have to tell you, that if you want to buy a franchise concept, you need to do to apply a process to do that. It's very important when you go to those links that I told you about, that not because it will look like the web shop. And don't take it as a shopping. It's not a shopping, it's investment. So take it as investment, not as shopping, because even if it looks like, you are browsing on the web shop, and like you are buying a dress or trousers or something. So, but this is the investment, and it's very, very serious thing. And in order to do it on a proper way, means that you have to do a process of that. So every and each franchise must be processed in exactly the same way, so you can compare them. That's very, very important, because otherwise it's very difficult to compare, I don't know, the restaurant with a fashion franchise, or educational franchise with wellness one, and so on. And I will show you how you will do the process from that. So first of all, there are 9 steps you have to choose when we're trying to choose the franchise concept. These 9 steps you will see will lead you through self-evaluation, then to the questions you have to put to your franchisor, then to research the industry, the franchise concept, and how to compare the data. Then you will see, that the most important thing is really to seek for the expert advice, the advice, because it's investment. So let's go with the first one, self-evaluation. So self-evaluation is very, very important step in the beginning. Why? Because you have to analyze yourself, your aspiration, your value of life, your wishes, what you would like to do actually, how you would like to do it, how long would you like to do it during the day, and so on. And that, if you are really doing a great job with this self-evaluation, that will prevent you from looking to the franchise concept that doesn't suit you, as because there is a lot of things out there, but you have to find something that will be perfectly just for you. In this way, you can focus on choosing the business just that will be good for your lifestyle and for your wishes, and so on. So I will explain you how it works. So here in those 2 pictures, you can see John, who is a very passionate golfer. He plays golf whenever he can. He's playing golf in the company of the friends and the wife and the family and so on. He's walking through these meadows, he's looking through these paysages, through these, picturesque places, looking around and so on. And in a certain moment, he decided to open his own business. And he said, I like golf very much, and I can open actually the golf shop. The shop where I will sell all the equipment for the golfers. So it sounds very good, and actually it's very logical. I hope you think that as well. But it's completely wrong. What is wrong in these 2 pictures? The wrong is that John is the person who likes to be on the fresh air, outside with the friends, with the family, looking to the wonderful, picturesque places and so on. And then he will close himself in the store probably without windows, without people, or except the clients, without, recreation, without exercise, without any of that. Because, even though this looks very logical, actually it's not for the John way of life. So let's go further. The further in the process of looking for the franchise actually is make a list of questions. Make the list of questions. What would you like to ask your future franchisor when you search for the best business for you? You don't have to, be very clever and to think, for the days what to ask, because you can go to for example, to the page of the Franchise Association of New Zealand, and you can find there 250 questions that you should be asked to every franchisor you meet. So, you don't have to ask 220, maybe you will ask 50, but you can find it on the internet what is the best thing to ask. Then in this selection process, it's very important that sometimes you will try to be in contact with a certain franchise concept, and they will not answer you, or they will only send you the questionnaire. They will not talk to you before. And actually, I know it's not very polite, maybe, or it's not good in business-wise, but you have to know something. Franchisor, from 100 telephone or email calls, 80 are not very serious. They are not actually looking for the business. They are only curious. Other 20, 10 of them will not answer on the questionnaire when they get it. And there are a lot of questions about them, about investment, about the money, family, and so on inside of those questionnaires. So they will not return it. So from other 10% or 10%, maybe 5 are not suitable for that franchise at all. So from that 5, franchisor will choose maybe 1, and will have maybe 1 contract. It's enormous time expenditure to find 1 franchisee. That's why the franchise concept, when you contact them, usually send you the questionnaire, not first, they will not first speak with you. So actually important part or step to own your own franchise is to do your homework. Actually, to learn as much as you can about franchising. Even being here is a very good thing, because you learned something today, and you need to learn much more. So learn everything you can do. That will prevent you from doing the mistakes, and that will teach you how to speak with your franchisor and how to choose your perfect business, what is perfect for you. So then you will start with the industry, not with the franchise concept, because first you will sit down with yourself and look, I would like to work in tourist industry, or I would like to work in fast food industry or education. Then when you decide which industry is interesting for you, or which niche is interesting for you, then you will start to search all the magazine articles, internet, competitors of that industry, and so on, to get much information as you can about the industry. Why? The aim is to get insight how frequent and strong are changes in that industry. What is, the impact of new technology on that industry, and so on. So what is legislation in your country in that industry? So those are very, very important things. Then you will investigate the franchise concept. So you will try to make the list of the questions you will ask to each franchisor. You will, investigate specific brand. You will answer to the questionnaire that franchisor will send to you, and you will talk to other franchisees of that network, and so on. You will focus on financial obligations, and so on and so on. Be careful, not be careful, but be aware that as negotiations are deepened the franchisor might ask you to sign some kind of non-disclosure document, because he has to disclose you his business secrets or his financial data and so on. So you will be asked to sign, non-disclosure document. So then let's the best franchise win. You will do the table maybe like this one, and where you will be able to compare every franchise concept that you was in the contract with. So maybe you will put, when it was established, what is the franchise fee, what are the royalties, and so on and so on, and how long is a contract, how many people you have to employ, and so on and so on. So, and in this way, you will be able to compare the franchise concept. Franchise agreement, we already said that the franchise agreement is negotiable, but ask for the help of the lawyer and for the professional advice. And of course, it's very important that you investigate the legislation in your country for that business. And those are types of franchise agreements. Most common type is single unit franchising. Actually, you have the right to open one franchise store and so on. Very popular nowadays, in some, it's more than 30% of franchises now that are multi-unit franchise. That means that you are very good at what you're doing and you want to open the new store, and that's mean multi-unit franchise. You can be multi-brand franchisee because you will buy another brand and join to your portfolio. So, but those are the franchise agreements. Master franchise agreement is for bigger territory, maybe for one state or for a country. And in master agreement, you have the right to sell sub-franchise agreements, to find a single unit franchisee, to sell it to them, and to earn from their royalties and the franchise initial fee. So, but you have to be aware what you are paying actually in this franchise, because you need to know exactly what restrictions are, because they can cause you the expenses. How many people you have to employ, because in franchising, it's not possible that you will open the business. So you will think, okay, the first year I will work alone, and then the second year my wife will help me, and so on. It's not possible in franchising. The franchisor will give you exact number of employees you have to employ if you want to operate that business. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 12. But you need to know that in advance, because that will burden your business, your income, and so on. So, but let's see actually what is usually what you are paying in a franchising. It's a franchise fee. Sometimes in literature you will find the name entrance fee, initial fee. It's the same thing. So here are royalties, marketing fee, sometimes training fee, insurance, maybe sometimes something more. But those are things that you have always, So what about the franchise fee? The franchise fee actually is something that you are paying in advance when you sign the contract. And that's all for the period of the contract. And with that initial entrance fee, actually, you pay initial access to intellectual property and know-how and the business secret. Actually, you are paying the evaluation of your location, what franchisor will do. The training and education, what he will give to you. He will support you in launching your business. And that's also, these expenses are inside of the entrance fee. So he already had a lot of expenses to recruiting you. You remember we said that 100 phone calls or emails, so that means 100 leads, will generate one contract, maybe one contract. I don't know exactly what are the prices of marketing, social, especially on the social networks in your country, but let's say that you spend $500 for some small marketing campaign. For that marketing campaign can bring you 20 leads at least. So actually, that means that the price of one lead is $25. Multiply by 100, because you need 100 leads to make one contract. That means that your franchisor already spent $2,500 to find you. So, those expenses are inside of the franchise fee as well. So franchisor will monitor your competition, will give you the exclusivity of the territory. All these is in franchise or entrance fee. Of course, the franchise fee will be larger if the brand is better known or global, and if the experience of the franchisor is bigger. So, that's why it's important that you look for franchise businesses that are not, so global. Maybe some regional one or your local one, you can afford them, and it's much easier to negotiate that business than with very, very big mega brands. Royalty is a second thing that you will pay in almost every franchise concept. Sometimes not, but in almost every, yes. So why you're paying royalties? Royalties fee is fee that you will pay every month or every week or quarterly maybe. And it's a percentage of your turnover. So the franchisor will take the percentage of your business. Sometimes it's 3%, 5%, of your business, and he will take it during the period of the contract, during 5 years. So, of course, why he's taking that? First of all, because you constantly use his brand, his know-how, his intellectual property. So he will help you and will give you technical and operative counseling during the period of business. He will do it on ongoing training and support, monitoring your business, help you take out the best of your business. So that's all are in royalties. And usually it is percentage. That means he will take, 3% of your total turnover. Usually less. Usually they deducted VAT. And okay, but sometimes the franchisees are very happy and are really doing best to get fixed fee, not the percentage, because in a certain moment it seems to you that fixed fee is better. Why? Because you will know exactly what you have to pay every month, but actually it's not. The percentage is much better. Why? Because if you're doing better job, the franchisor will take more money, because they will take 3% of your turnover. And that means that the franchisor will do whatever he can to teach you and to guide you and to help you earn more money, because he will earn, more money together with you. And that if you have fixed amount of royalties, for franchisor, it's the same. He doesn't have to, put all his energy to help you build the business, because anyhow he will get the fixed amount of money, not the percentage. That means that you need to be happy to have the percentage of your turnover as the royalty fee. And of course, you will have the territory where you will work. You will have from your franchisor. You will get this territory. Maybe it will be the whole town. Maybe it will be the part of the town, some streets, and so on and so on. It depends from franchise concept to franchise concept, from franchisor to franchisor. In that territory, it's important thing that you find out in advance what are the plan of the franchisors, how he's supposed to cover whole territory where you live, not only the part you will get, but whole territory. Why? Because you don't want to have, a lot of competition around, and the competition from your own brand. And sometimes in the contract, franchisor will tell you, oh, this is the plan. On this territory, we will have only you. On your neighbor territory, we will have one franchisee. On the other neighbor territory, we will have another franchisee, and he will show you the plan, the map, how he will cover the territory. But sometimes he will not tell you how many his own location he will open on that territory. And you have to think about it and to ask him in that 220 or 50 questions. You need to ask him what are his plans to develop his own location as well, not only the franchisee one. So the important thing also, what you have to know and you have to ask for and you have to have as a franchisee is a franchise manual. You could not have them before you sign the contract and go to your training and education, but you need to have them. So, and it will be, in your contract that you will have them. And so it's very important. Manuals, it's a plural because it's always more than one. It's operational manual, maybe it's technical one, it's a graphic standard one, and so on. It can be a lot of manuals that will help you build your business and put them on health feeds. So actually manuals are the basis for the training and education. And I told you in the beginning, when we were talking about the know-how, that actually the know-how and sometimes the business secrets as well are intangible assets. So how make intangible assets tangible? You can make it only if you put them in written in some document, and that document is the franchise manuals. So here you have steps. It's not the same. I spoke about 9 steps, how you can search your, ideal franchise system. But here is something else. Here is, the roadmap to open your franchise business. Of course, we spoke about it. Self-evaluation is, very important step. And then you picking the help, the franchise consultant and the lawyer. It's very important step. Then go, a lot of franchise concepts, they have discovery days. So you can contact them and say, oh, I'm interested I would like to come to your discovery day. There, it's an event where you can meet a lot of other franchisees or future franchisees. You can speak with them and they will tell you their experience with that franchise brand and so on. So this is a perfect opportunity to ask if they have discovery day. And then you will find the suitable location for you. Franchisor will help you, maybe will help you to build that location or to design it with interior design and so on. Maybe he will leave that to you, but just to give you the advice, maybe he will tell you, okay, but you have to pay interior design, I don't know, $500 per square meter and buy our equipment from us. You will have to know before that, before you sign contract, you will have to know that. So then you will obtain the necessary permits to start your own business in that sector, in that industry, because you already know all the legislative obligation in your country for that industry. Then you will hire staff, and franchisor will help you hire the best staff for that business. And then you will open the door of your own business. So we were talking about women in business. We were talking about the women in business during our this presentation. I will tell you just that 50% of women own the businesses in US versus 35% in Europe. I read somewhere that it's around 40% in your country, and that it's growing trend in your region. Female entrepreneurship and so even the franchising. So actually, Global Entrepreneurship Monitor says, I spoke about that on the beginning, that 70% of women are highly likely, to start their businesses, but 39% of them report the fear of failure, why they will not start it. Even they would like to start it, they're very afraid of starting it. So this reported fear of failure is actually the highest percentage reported in your region, for your country, But let's see something about women and the franchising. So 20% of women own franchise businesses, plus 17% where the ownership is mixed with the women and the men. So it's almost 50%. In the last decade, the share of women in franchising has increased by 83%. With a male share, which increased only by 13%. So it's a great attraction, between franchising and the women. So we are all aware that I'm entrepreneur as well, not only professor. We're all aware of the stubborn barriers that women faced and did face in 10 years ago and so on. And those challenges actually was, access to the capital or access to information, access to education, maybe, then lack of self-confidence, of courage, a lot of fears, and so on, lack of support of the family and society. And a lot of that barriers are overcome now, but some really persisted. And that barriers are lack of, especially when we are talking about women, lack of self-confidence, lack of ideas. So we are on the beginning again. But I want to tell you that entrepreneurship is not just starting a business. It's actually much more of that. It's a way of life. It's response to the challenges from the environment. So declared by the Council of Europe, European Union, there are 3 key life competencies that are fundamental for each individual in a knowledge-based society. One of them is entrepreneurship as well. So it's defined like ability to turn ideas into action through creativity, innovation, risk-taking. Actually, it's entrepreneurial venture. So to be able to be entrepreneurial and to express yourself, your entrepreneurial skills, and to actually be full as a person, you need to have first freedom to start your own business. The freedom is prerequisite for entrepreneurship. And then to be able to give your actually your creativity inside your entrepreneurial venture. Actually, franchising is helping you with all of that. First of all, it can help women very much in that insecurity and in that lack of ideas, maybe. And in that sense that they will not be left alone because they will have
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
The question is that how to help women in your region, in your country, with the franchising. Franchising can help in a million ways. So because they will get, they will be empowered by franchisor and the franchise network in their everyday activities, and actually they will establish their business more quickly, and so they will not learn from their trial and mistakes. So actually, they will have the mentor. They will, they will have opportunity to expand, especially, successful small businesses, female-owned small businesses, and male, of course, but we are talking about female now. In your country, can expand through franchising and create then employment. Usually, the female businesses employ more women, so that's all connected together. And actually, in that way, the franchising can contribute more to the national economy of your country and to generate the employment. So why the women's skills are very good for franchising as well, because we are very good in following systems and following rules. We are prioritizing risk. We have good organizational skills, and we like to network a lot. So we are much striving for perfection. We are much more punctual, than the men are. Maybe we are much loyal. So loyalty is very important. So we have this aptitude to learn very high, and then so we are good team players. So with all this great potential what we have and what we are bringing to business, and great potential that franchising is giving, to the women, it's actually a perfect match. So I want to tell you just, something more, and then we have to finish and have time for your questions. That actually sometimes the women in franchising, franchisors or franchisees, are the ambassadors of franchising in their local community, and then they transfer their knowledge of franchising to social projects. And here we are talking about social franchising, and even that is more sustainable. than the normal social project. So that's also why franchising is maybe very, very important. So actually, I would like to finish with this thought, and that franchising is one of the most dynamic and least understood parts of any economy. But putting simply, franchising is a formula that can turn one successful business into many of them, if you do it correctly and right. So thank you very much. I would like to have your questions now. Okay, so I'm getting some of your question. Just a moment. What's your advice for someone just started his business and he's facing many challenges, mainly with a team that are not well prepared? So you already started your business. So yes, I know that now you're on your own, and you have to prepare yourself. I would give you the advice: learn as much as you can. There are a lot of things free on the internet. There are a lot of things going on in your country, because I know that through this development strategy vision 2030, what Kingdom of Saudi Arabia launched a few years ago, there is a lot of things going on in educational wise to prepare entrepreneurs for their businesses, or the future entrepreneurs to start their own businesses. I would suggest you learn as much as you can, because everything you will and you can apply to your business. And when you will come to the point that you would like to grow your business further or better, think about franchising, because you will have 3 resources, the most wanted resources that every growing business is missing. You will get it through franchising. First is money, because you will get franchisees who will pay you the franchise fee, start your business actually. Then you will have motivated personnel, because franchisee has his own company, and he's mostly motivated to develop your business, and he will give you time to develop your business. So that's what I think that you should do. Learn and then think about franchising. The next question is, me as a woman wanted to start my own business. What is the best field to choose that will be very profitable? Here we come to the lack of ideas. So that's why I'm telling you that you need to look on the internet, ask the people from the organizers. They can share the slide with all the links I put on that slide, and go there, see what is out there, and then you can choose. On some website you can choose by investment, so you can put how money you have, or how much money you can invest, and they will give you some franchise concept. So don't be very fascinated with very big brands. There are a lot of very nice concepts out there, but that you don't know about it. And in that case, look about the business concept. It doesn't matter that brand is not recognized in your country. Maybe it's recognized just in one territory, in a neighborhood country. But the most important thing is the business concept. How that look like, what are returns, and then how you can make profitability from that. Do you prefer to buy a franchise, local or international brand? It's my first time in this field. I would prefer to buy a franchise. I'm a franchisor. I create my own company, and I create my own franchise concept. It's called Body Creator. It's a female weight loss center here in my region. And but I would prefer, if I start the business now, I would prefer to buy the franchise. And I was very tempted a few months ago to buy and to franchise, just to diversify my business, and to buy something else. And yes, I prefer to do that because of the support I can get from the franchisor, and you can find a lot of interesting things. One comment: thank you so much for this useful workshop. thank you for listening to me. I hope we will have possibility to go through this topic again, maybe. Then, since the pandemic and my business is getting down, do you prefer to close it or just to give some time? Look, I cannot give you this answer without any numbers, without profound information about your business. But I know that the business is going down. But I can give you another advice. They're calling them controller. But actually they're not controlling anything. They're some kind of accountant. They can predict, in a certain moment, how your business will go in the next 2 or 3 years or so on. So try to find some of accountant of that type in your country and ask them what to do, because they will give you the best answer on that. I cannot give it like that. So, but I can tell you something else about the pandemic and the franchising. Actually, the franchising is recession-proof business. Why? During the last recession 10 years ago, your region had the rise, 25% of the rise of franchising in your region during the recession, when everywhere in the world it was only 4%. So during the last this pandemic, franchising actually is growing, very slowly, but it's growing. Why? With every recession, franchising is flourishing because there are a lot of people losing their jobs and they get some money, to start their own business. And here's a franchising that can help them, and they can share risk with them, because of course they would like to share risk more than anything else, especially in the moment when they are out of job. So franchising can, fill that gap that is happening during the recession or the last pandemic. But in your situation, I would consulting, controls, or the I don't know if it's the same name in your country, but it's the actually those are accountants. Let's see some other questions. Okay, so I cannot find the other questions here. Maybe it will come. I'm open for your questions. Just write it down if there is something else. I expected much more questions from you, actually. Maybe there is some other. Yeah, I know that, now during the pandemic, it's, it's very fragile, situation. And actually, what happened in my country during in this pandemic? That the last year we had 20% more domestic brands on the market than ever before. And this, this growth continued this year as well. Why? Because first of all, our economy was closed for some periods during this pandemic, and the entrepreneurs were able to work on their businesses, not only in their businesses. Because what we're doing usually, we are working in their business, everyday business, and that's not the role of entrepreneur, to work inside of his business all day long. Our role as entrepreneurs are strategy, thinking, development. That's our role, not everyday business. And usually we don't have time for that. So that's why during this pandemic, when the business was closed, a lot of entrepreneurs in my country actually start franchising. They have the time and to develop their franchise concept and to put it on the market. Here it is, another one, comment only. I really learned a lot about franchising. Thank you. I hope so. If I can be of any help, just drop the questions and I will try to answer on them here, because we have more time actually for that. No, it's very I know that people usually have, this misconception, oh, franchising, oh, it's McDonald's, Actually, yeah, maybe McDonald's is the pioneer, when the franchising is starting, but in some country, on some market. But actually, there are a lot very, very good franchise concepts, and in your region as well, and all over the world, that you can start, and you couldn't even imagine that niche or that industry that can be covered. So, but I have to tell you that a lot of my colleagues, we are franchise consultants, own the franchise, some franchise concept, not because they are franchisors, because they bought it. Because in our business we encounter a lot of business franchise concepts, so we are really very deep inside of that business, and we can see a lot of interesting things that we can apply, and we can start the new business. So I have a lot of my colleagues who already started, as a franchisee. Yesterday, I spoke with my colleague from South Africa. We were working together in World Franchise Council for years, and then she's not, the CEO of South Africa Franchise Association, but she bought the franchise, and it's very good Australian franchise called. It's operating in a very special field of the shops with the used objects. We already use the technical objects or phones and so on, and it's very, very cash converts. It's a name, cash convert, and it's very successful Australian business. And she opened in South Africa and stopped working for Franchise Association of South Africa. So actually, a lot of people who knows a lot about franchising start as a franchisee. So it's not only that we are preaching it; we are really doing it. Is there any other maybe question? So if okay, what shall we wait? A little bit more. So I'm sure that there are people who would like to ask a question. Okay, so just a moment. We got another question. From your point of view, what is the best country for franchising? Here, I'm not sure. Did you think for buying a franchise? From which country you would like to buy a franchise, or at which country you would like to work as a franchisee? But anyhow, I told you that Australia, New Zealand, United States of America, they are very developed in franchising. They have a lot of franchise concepts and a lot of good franchise concepts. So if you would like to shop the franchise concept, to look, what to do, try with Australia. It's you can find the Franchise Council of Australia, or in United States, on the internet you will find everything, and you can buy their franchise concept. They're very rigid, because in those countries there is very established legal procedure and so on for starting to franchise. But when they're exporting, they transfer that kind of that kind of agreements. So I would start to look those concepts as well. But you can start in your region, because maybe it's closer to you. It's already in Arabic, and it's very close to your mentality, to way of doing business and so on. So I hope that I answer on all your questions. Thank you very much for participating in this workshop. I hope you learned something. I hope you can apply that to your business, and I hope you will find the best job you can for your lifestyle and for you and your family. Thank you very much.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. مساكم الله بالرضا والسرور جميعا، وحياكم الله في آخر حلقاتنا النقاشية اليوم وآخر الندوات. طبعا ضيفنا اليوم من اليو كي، من المملكة المتحدة، ويأتي بخبرة وباع طويل في الامتياز التجاري. بعد إذنكم تأذنون لي بحول للغة الإنجليزية الآن، وحيكون في إن شاء الله دبلجة مباشرة. Our guest today is Mr. Matt O'Neill. Mr. O'Neill is well known throughout the franchise industry, and for 21 years he has worked with many of the leading names in franchise brands. After 14 years in the plastics industry, Matt was the former business owner and sales director of a delivery and vending franchise Snack in the Box, in association with the Calvary and Mars. Over his experience spans 21 years in the franchise industry, Matt has helped hundreds of people transitioning from employment to business owners by helping them to start their own businesses and become franchisees. Matt spent many years giving independent advice, organizing, running, and presenting the franchise seminars around the UK in association with Lloyds and NatWest Bank. He is also the founder and owner of Franchise Advisory Services, which was formed to help both people new to franchising and franchisors with their franchise recruitment. Matt is also the co-founder and the owner of Franchise Marketing Services, and he designed franchiseseminars.info, which is an online educational program to help people new to franchising learn how to evaluate a franchise and things they need to know before investing in franchise. Matt, welcome.
Thank you very much. So my name is Matt O'Neill, and thank you very much, Mr. Khalid, for the introduction. Welcome everybody to our program this afternoon. We're going to discuss what is the safest, smartest way of starting a new business. So this is really designed for people who are looking to start their own business, first of all, or perhaps they're doing some due diligence already with a franchisor. We're also going to learn why franchising is such a successful global model. And we're going to examine some of the things that you need to know before investing in a franchise, the relationship between a franchisee and a franchisor, and how franchising works, why does it work, and why is it going to work for you. So let's make a brief start. Thank you very much, Mr. Khalid, for giving me an introduction. You don't need to see and hear all that over again. So what is franchising? Well, interestingly, James Bond is a franchise. So is Star Wars, Coca-Cola. And yet, if you went to a franchise exhibition, you wouldn't see a stand for any of those. That's because they're more of a license for either a product such as a film or manufacturing of a formula to be available in different countries. So we're not really going to be speaking about that type of franchising today. Then you have what they call distribution franchises or cooperatives, retail buying groups, where you can buy bulk or goods in bulk, and they're supplied to retail outlets. Again, not really what we're going to be discussing this afternoon. But if you look up franchising on any internet web portal, or you attend a franchise exhibition or a franchise show, or you read some franchise press, a magazine, they will all be talking about the third one, business format franchising or system franchising, which is essentially the duplication of a proven business system that you can then duplicate in other parts of the world or the part of the country where you happen to live. So let's just get very boring for a few seconds. What is a business format franchise? Well, the definition is simply this. It's a license to use intellectual property from one party, the franchisor, to another party, the franchisee or the person that's going to invest in the business. But this is the important bit. There is a predetermined series of ongoing commitments between both parties. So franchising is all about a relationship between the franchisor and the franchisee. It's all about support, and it's all about guidance. So let's drill down a little bit further, and just for a moment, consider, what should a good franchise contain? Well, if you have a good franchise, first of all, you can't just have an idea and think, oh, I'm going to franchise this, and it's what we would call a blue sky idea, never been done before. No. Franchising has to be based on an existing business that's proven to be successful, that has a set of accounts, VAT returns, and it's a proper business that's up and running and successful. Then you need to have proper documented systems and controls. Now, if you were to invest in a well-known burger franchise, and prior to the digital age, you would have manuals that teach you all about the franchise. They'd stand about this high off the floor, about 1.5 meters off the floor. Now we have it all digital, which is much easier. But what do those manuals do? What do those systems teach you? How to recruit the staff, what temperatures the fryer should be, even the color of the chicken nuggets when they come out of the fryer, how to sweep the floor, how to do a VAT return, how to train your staff, how to buy products, and how to market the business. Everything that you need to know to make sure that you have a successful business and that you go on and run that business successfully. Also, a good franchise should have proper, effective training, because after all, the franchisor wants you to duplicate that system so that when people use the products or services of that franchise, it's the same as everywhere else. So if you're looking at a franchise and it only offers you 2 or 3 days training, ask yourself the question, well, what am I really buying? What is it I'm buying that perhaps I could have just worked out for myself if I was having a look on the internet? What the franchisor should be training you to do, number one, is to become self-employed, how to run a business, how to market that business successfully, how to launch the business and then be successful in running that business on an ongoing basis. They need to give you a proper support structure too. So this is not just initial training, but it's ongoing support. So you'll have support managers that will help you, because you're going to be out of your comfort zone and you're going to have times when you're a little bit concerned, worried, anxious. Well, the franchisor will give you a support system to make sure that you're okay in those areas. Security of tenure, what do we mean by that? Well, most franchises have a term on the franchise contract. Could be 5 years, very common, could be 10 years, could even be 20 years. And what you want to make sure is that when you get to the end of that term, you're not just giving the keys back to the franchisor and saying, thank you very much. And the franchisor then takes them keys back, as it were, and sells that business again. You need to make sure that you have a business that's of value at the end that you can sell. What's very common in franchising is you have the right to renew that contract again for a further term and continue to renew that contract if you want to and the franchisor wants you to. Then we talk a little bit about being a member of a franchise association. So here in the UK, we have the British Franchise Association, which is a trade body especially designed for franchising. Now, it doesn't control the franchisor, but it has a code of ethics, a standard to operate to. Just to give you an idea, there are nearly 1,000 franchises now in the UK, and yet less than 400 of those franchises are part of the British Franchise Association. And that's because they either don't want to abide by the code of ethics of the BFA, or they don't qualify to live up to the code of ethics of the British Franchise Association. So whatever country you're from, there will be a franchise trade association, and we would always encourage people to make sure if they're buying a franchise from a franchisor that they are a member of one of those trade associations. It's not a guarantee, but it is comforting to know that you're buying a franchise from somebody who's operating to a proper code of ethics. Okay, so that is what a good franchise should contain. Now, franchising now is big business in the world. If you look at those brand names, I don't need to explain to you who they are or what they do or what products they sell, because you can tell by their logo exactly what those businesses are, and yet they are franchise businesses. And just like you to think for a moment how many times you as an individual interacts with or buys services from a franchise business every single day. Now, you get up in the morning, you may drive to work, and as you drive down the highway, you might see a fuel station. A lot of fuel stations are franchise businesses, and you pull in, you go to pay for your fuel, and there may be coffee or food products that are franchise concessions within that garage arrangement. Then as you drive along the road, you'll see lots of signs, for sale signs, to let signs, advertising signs. A lot of those signs are produced by franchise businesses. As you arrive to work, you sign in with a pen or you get a badge or a lanyard. Again, there are a couple of franchises that produce that type of material. When you go out to eat at lunchtime, these days, a lot of restaurants and food chains are franchise businesses. And whether you know it or not, you're actually eating your food in a franchise premises. And then finally, when you get home, if you're tired and you haven't had time to prepare any food, you might pick up the phone and dial a pizza. A lot of pizza franchises these days are franchise businesses. So you and I, we interact with franchise businesses all the time, whether we know it or whether we don't know it. And it actually has become big business globally, not just here in the UK or in America, but it's a global thing. So just to examine that a little bit further, why is franchising considered then the safer, smarter route to start a business? Well, just look for a second at the support sign there and all those things on that signpost. Help, guidance, support, advice, assistance. Franchisee success rates are 97%. That means after 2 years, they're profitable and they're still trading and they have a successful business. Now, that is due to all the things you see on that sign. It's due to the training. It's due to the support and the guidance and the assistance from the franchisor. After all, it's in the franchisor's interest for you to be successful and also for them and their brand to be seen as successful. Now, if you compare those rates with independent non-franchise businesses, those success rates are much lower. Here in the UK, excuse me, banks love franchising. There are 3 major banks in franchising in the UK: HSBC, NatWest, and Lloyds. And because of the success rates of franchisees in franchising, UK banks will lend up to 70 to 75% of the startup fees for a franchise business. Now, if you compare that to non-franchise businesses, where the banks may only lend up to 50% or less, or even none at all. So banks love franchising, and that's because of their model. Their business model is to lend you money, they want it back, and they want a little bit more on top. So they love franchising because they've got a 97% chance of getting their money back and the interest as well. 91% of franchisees were happy or satisfied with their franchisor. How many employees do we know where 91% of them are happy with the boss? Not many. And franchise failure for commercial reasons has come right down. It's now less than 1%. Now, that was according to a British Franchise Association and NatWest survey. So franchising is definitely seen as the safer, smarter route to start a business because the success rates are better than non-franchise businesses. So what are some of the advantages then of franchising if you want to become a franchisee? Well, just think for a moment. If you join a franchise these days, it's very unlikely that you're going to be the first one. The franchisor may have 10, 20, 50, 100, 150, 300 existing franchisees. If that's the case, and that business has already been proven to be successful, and that will increase your chances if you become a franchisee of that franchisor. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Also, if you invest in a proper national or international brand name, that will increase your chances of success too, but also you will get instant credibility. If we just go back to my example of a well-known burger franchise, when people walk into the establishment, the restaurant, they don't think, oh, who owns this? Or is the person that owns this a franchisee? No, they just want the product. They want it and they want it now and they want to move on. So all of the credibility that an international brand has built becomes your credibility. All of the testimonials that they have become your testimonials. Now, if you compare that with a non-franchised independent business, it takes a long, long time, if ever, to build up a history of credibility. So franchising will give you that immediately. Look at things like bulk buying and economies of scale that are all associated with franchising. But take the last one there, rentals, for a moment. If you've got a really good idea, I don't know, coffee, food, or a franchise that you want to put into a shopping centre, and you go and see the owner of the shopping centre, they will say, here is the rate card. In other words, this is what you would pay to rent it per square metre. And if you're successful, we might put you on the third floor in the top right-hand corner. And you might say, I don't want to be on the top floor in the right-hand corner. I want to be down the bottom by the entrance where all the people are coming in and out. And that foot flow of people, I want people to go past my business so that it's successful. But the owner of the shopping centre might say, well, you may want to, but we don't know who you are. Why should we give you a prime location? Now, when you invest in a franchise business, it's a totally different conversation. First of all, it's the franchisor that will be having that conversation with the owner and not you. And they will say, do you want our brand in this shopping centre? Because if you do, let us tell you the location of where it should be. Because we've got statistics that will show you the footfall we're expecting. We can also show you the different types of brands and other businesses that you should have around us to make sure that this is successful and they are successful too. It's a totally different conversation, and it's not a conversation that you need to have. The franchisor will do that for you. We talked about a support structure, advice, ideas, solutions. For example, if you come up against a problem, the franchisor normally 9 times out of 10 will already know what that problem is and how to solve it. If it's new, then you can solve it as a group, which is a lot easier than you having to think about it yourself. But suppose you want to spend $10,000 or £10,000 or an equivalent amount of money on marketing your business. And you think, where shall I spend that money? Well, what's interesting about that is that if I was a franchisor and somebody asked me that, I'd say, come and see me. Let me share with you where all of our franchise network are spending their money on advertising. And let me share with you what's the most effective and gives the best results. Quite often, one advert is in a newspaper, for example, is just too expensive and not necessarily successful. It might be that you need a marketing mix. Perhaps you need an advert, some leaflet drops, targeted email campaigns, and the franchisor can share with you where that is working and where it's working the best. And you can then get the best you can for your money. Don't forget, all the time while you're getting to know how to run your business and growing your business, the franchisor is developing their brand too. And as their brand grows and gets better and better and bigger, you will naturally benefit from all of those advances that the franchisor is making. We spoke about training. That's really, really important, but also ongoing training. You want to be able to go back to the franchisor at any time and be trained in different things that come out, different legislations, or even just to go back on the initial course again so that you can refresh your memory to make sure you're doing it properly. Now, all of these things add up to the thing you can see at the bottom of your screen. Another mantra in franchising is that you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. The franchisor is there every step of the way. Now, that's some of the good stuff. Now, what are some of the disadvantages of franchising if you want to become a franchisee? Well, franchising is all about following the model, the system. There are two major reasons why franchisees fail in the UK, in fact, globally. The first one is not following the franchise model. The franchisor spent a long, long time developing a business system that's been proven to work. And what they don't want is you coming along and thinking that you know better and they're going to do something different. So if you don't like the idea of following a business system or a model, please, please, please do not buy a franchise. It will break your heart and it will break the franchisor's heart too. Just imagine again, going back to my burger franchise scenario. We have a successful burger chain. They want you to sell burgers, fries, coffee, the occasional lettuce leaf and salad, and perhaps wraps. That's their business model. Milkshakes maybe too, but that is their business model. What they don't want you selling is cigarettes, products you've made at home, anything else you think would be a good idea to sell in the store. No, they want you to sell exactly what they sell in every other store. And if you decide to do something different, you'll be the shortest serving franchisee on the planet, because the franchisor will terminate the agreement and will not allow you to continue to trade. So following the model is really important. Secondly, is how much money is it going to cost you? Now, when you see franchises advertised in shows or on web portals or in magazines, you might see £50,000 or 40,000 or 25,000, whatever the figure is. That's not the final amount of money that you will be paying. And it's really important to know that, because you've got to be able to buy the franchise, first of all. Then you need to be able to afford to run the franchise. How much money is it going to cost you on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis to run that franchise business? Now, the franchisor can help you with that because they know exactly how much money that will cost. So you need the first one, the franchise fee. The second one, how much to run the business. The third one is how much money do you need to live on until you can start taking a wage from that business. The wage, is it 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? Can you survive during that period? It's really, really important. Nobody wants to be 10 months into a franchise and run out of money. That's a terrible place to be. And that's a second reason why people fail in franchising, is that they come into business underfunded. We'll talk about that a bit later. But make sure you've got enough money to buy it, run it, and live. Secondly, understand that the franchisor is not really looking to make their money from the franchise fee. They're looking to make their money over the term of the franchise agreement. That's either a percentage of your turnover or by charging a management services fee. What's a good fee to pay? 5% or 25%? Well, it depends on what you're getting for the service. If you're only paying 5% and you never see the franchisor again, that's not a good deal. If you're paying 25%, but they're doing your marketing, recruitment, and accounts, well, that might be a good deal. It's important to find out what is it you're paying for the management services fee. But if you don't like the sound of that, then don't buy a franchise, because that's how franchising works. You need to have commitment for the term of the franchise agreement. So we mentioned already that franchise agreements could be 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, depending on the business. So franchise agreements are best illustrated like mobile phone contracts. Almost everybody's got a mobile phone these days, and we don't mind signing into a 24-month contract knowing that we've got to pay each month for that phone. Now, if we have the phone and it's now only 2 months into the contract and we don't want it anymore, and we say to to Vodafone or whoever, listen, I don't want this phone anymore. They say, that's okay, Mr. O'Neill. Could you please pay the other 22 months of the outstanding contract, please? Because that's what you owe us. You agreed to do. Now, we know that. That doesn't frighten us to sign a mobile phone contract, because we understand how it works. Franchising is very, very similar. If you sign a 5-year franchise agreement, then after 1 year you decide you don't like it anymore, and you say to the franchisor, "Look, I'm really sorry, I think I've made a mistake, I really don't like this anymore, I want to go, I'm leaving," the franchisor reserves the right to have a very frank conversation, an honest conversation with you, which will go something along the lines of, well, why don't you like it? Can we work together to make it how you want the business to be, what you're expecting it to be? No, I don't like it, I'm leaving, I'm going. Well, hang on a moment, you've bought a franchise, it's got a 5-year agreement, you can't just walk away. So let's help you get the business ready to market it and to sell that business. And then once you found a buyer, or we find a buyer, you can then move on. No, I really don't want to do it, I am leaving tomorrow. If you take the third route, then just like the mobile phone company, the franchisor reserves the right to pursue you in the court for all the outstanding management services fees that they were expecting to gather from you, any loss of earnings, any loss of business, and the price to actually sell that business on again. And it could cost you a lot of money. So don't let that frighten you, just understand the mechanics of how it works. And then that makes sure that when you're looking to buy a franchise, you really do your homework properly in your due diligence, and then you'll be fine. Finally, it's not an excuse not to work. Buying a franchise doesn't mean to say the money's just going to roll in and you sit back and do nothing. Just like an aeroplane going down a runway needs an enormous amount of energy to get off the ground. Then once it's in the sky, it can then ease back a little bit and cruise. Starting a new business is very similar. It takes an enormous amount of energy to get it going. If you buy a restaurant, someone's got to go in, switch on the lights, turn on the ovens, recruit the staff, buy the products and everything else. If you buy a consultancy franchise, you can't just sit at home getting all the files on your computer ready without going out and winning business. Otherwise you won't have a business. So franchising is a really good way of starting a new business because of the formula and the success rates, but you do need to follow the model and understand what you're getting into. It's very important, I put this slide up, that you build trust. That is on both sides of the fence. If you're a franchisor, you need to build trust in your brand. Make sure that what you say in your prospectus, what you say online, in your discovery days, in meetings that you have, in training sessions, is consistent and truthful. Don't tell lies. Don't exaggerate the earning potentials, because if you do that, the franchisee could come back to you and say, this isn't working, you sold me and lied to me when you sold me the franchise. Secondly, if you're a franchisee, make sure you really understand the business model. What is required of you? And then make sure you validate this by speaking with as many franchisees as possible so that you know exactly what's required. Do your homework. Don't sign a franchise agreement or be pressured into signing an agreement until you know what it is that's working. Okay, so let's now look at the 6 steps of successfully choosing the right franchise for you. Lots of different franchises out there. How do we do it? Step number 1, define your investment. When you've just started looking at the franchise, or when you've signed an agreement? No. Define your investment before you choose. As we said before, the 2 reasons why franchisees fail: one is not following the model, or we've discussed that. The second one is coming into business underfunded, not enough money to actually buy the business, run the business, and live. So if you know exactly how much you've got to spend, and you can do that by talking to banks and accountants and so on, it will naturally start eliminating different franchisors out of the question. If they're in the millions and you're not looking to spend millions, well, then that's fine. If they're in the hundreds of thousands, you're not looking to spend hundreds of thousands, that's good. If it's in and around the money that you can afford, that's great. So understand the franchisor is not going to reduce the fee. In fact, be aware of any franchisor that reduces the fee, because all they're going to take out of it is the support. And imagine being on a training course sitting next to a franchisee that paid £20,000 less than you. So it doesn't happen. The franchisor must have a level playing field. Everybody's spent the same amount of money getting into the business. So do your homework and don't try and make it work if you can't afford it. Now that might naturally whittle it down from 1,000 down to perhaps 200 franchises. Now it's time to have a really, really important conversation with the most important person in the room, and that is you, yourself. Ask yourself these questions. Does it suit me? I like the idea of it, but can I really see myself doing this? Will it suit my financial needs, my wants, my lifestyle, my family? For example, if you're used to earning 100,000 a year and the average that the franchise produces is 40 to 50,000, will you really be happy working a 60-hour week for half the money that you're used to earning? Probably not. Ask yourself, will it suit your lifestyle? If you can't get out of bed in the morning, don't buy a bakery franchise. You've got to be there at 2:30 a.m. If you roll in at 10:30 a.m., your business is gone. If you want to be, if you only want a business that runs 5 days a week, 9 to 5, then think very seriously before you buy a retail franchise, because they are 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The staff are generally on minimum wage, and so they will let you down left, right, and centre, particularly at weekends. And the person that has to go in and cover those staff is you. And if you want to be spending time with your family at those times, then perhaps that's not the franchise for you. So ask yourself those questions. Be honest with yourself. Finally, ask yourself the question, will you enjoy it? Because in my experience, if you do something that you don't enjoy, you won't do it for very long. And then you could find yourself in all sorts of problems and all kinds of trouble. Now that may take you from 200 franchises down to 30. The next one's really interesting, is looking at the industry itself. Avoid fad industries. In other words, industries that are popular perhaps every 5 years or every 10 years. 1 minute everyone's spending money on it and it's really successful, and then you never hear of it ever again. You don't want to be involved in that type of franchise. You want something that's ongoing, long term. Look at the industry, look at boom and bust cycles. If the industry's on the up and it's booming, great. But if it's on the decline, then you don't really want to be involved with that. So look at the franchise, look at the market. Are they selling products that you could buy on eBay cheaper? Well, if that's the case, why would somebody want to buy it from you at a higher price? Think about the chemicals that a franchise might be using. Are they soon to be made, are they soon to be outlawed in the country where you live, rendering your business useless? Think about credit terms. Do they meet the laws of your country? So you need to peel back the layers a little bit to really find out exactly what's involved. And that may take you from 30 franchises down to 10. Then you need to seek some advice. You need to find out as much as you can about the franchisor. So your first port of call is the franchisor themselves. Try and find out as much information about the franchisor online, but meet with the franchisor. Now, I appreciate in COVID times it's quite difficult, but we can do it online. We can do it via Zoom. We may even be able to meet in a hotel, or in an open air area. Go and see the franchisor and find out if they really are what you think they are. Speak to the franchisees. Now, this is really, really important. Understand that when you ask to speak to franchisees, it's a managed process. The franchisor wants to put their best foot forward. So they're probably going to give you their top 5 franchisees to speak to. That's fine. Speak to them because you could learn a lot from them. But then once you've spoken to them, you could always go back to the franchisor and say, could I have another 5, please? And the franchisor should give you 5 more to speak to, and speak with them. And if you're still not satisfied, go back and say, could I have another 5 to speak to, please? And if they say, why can't you make a decision? Why do you want to speak to more people? Well, that to me would think, well, what are they trying to hide? You just want to verify and validate the franchise. So ask to speak to another, and speak to as many franchisees until you start hearing the same thing over and over again. Ask them, how much money did it really cost to get into business? When did they start taking a wage out of the business? 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? Ask what the relationship is like with the franchisor. Are they really nice at the beginning and nasty afterwards, or are they really nice and fair to deal with? And then finally, speak to successful franchisees and some franchisees that have not been very successful, because you will learn the difference between the two. Why are the successful ones? What are they doing to make them successful? What are the ones that are not so successful doing to make them not as successful? So get some advice, financial advice from banks, accountants, but also legal advice as well. Now, a word of warning with legal advice is, my experience with legal advice is that you really need to take your franchise agreement to a franchise lawyer, because franchise lawyers understand the interpretation of that franchise agreement with regards to franchising in your country. Now, that's important because most lawyers are dealing with other things, business sales, house sales, that kind of thing, divorce, whatever. But you want a franchise lawyer that understands how to read a franchise agreement. And that may take you from 10 franchisees down to perhaps 5 franchisors. Now, the next thing is, you really then, step number 5, you need to compare the best that's out there. You need to reduce the leap of faith that is in going from not buying a franchise to buying a franchise. And it is a leap of faith, but you can narrow the gap with knowledge. So as we said before, visit the franchisor, find out as much as you can. Why? Why not? You haven't spent any money yet. So make sure you get to know the franchisor. Make sure you speak to as many franchisees as possible. Adopt a standard system of questions and ask them the same questions. Note what they say and perhaps note what they don't say too, and compare the results and remove the emotion out of the process. Do you get on with the franchisor? Because if you don't get on with them now during the happy period, you probably won't get on with them afterwards. Now, you might think, what questions can I ask? Well, again, if you go on to any franchise trade association, they normally have standard questions to ask a franchisor. But you can go on to the British Franchise Association website, HSB Bank UK, Lloyds Bank UK, NatWest Bank UK. They all have a franchise section. They all have a list of questions to ask the franchisor, and they're free of charge. Finally, take the emotion out of the decision. You might really, really like the salesperson that you're talking to of the franchisor, but remember, that's what they are. They are a paid person to sell you the franchise. So make sure you're not basing your decision on whether how much you like the person, but whether the business is right for you. Finally, it's time to make a decision. Now, only if you're 100% certain. I'm not sure anyone could be 100%, but you could get to 95%. So my advice is this: if you get to the end of these 6 steps and you find you're not sure still, you like a business, you think it could be the one for you, but you're not quite sure, my advice is do the 6 steps again. You haven't spent any money yet. All you've spent is time. Redo those 6 steps again, and you may find that when you get to the end of those 6 steps, it's the same business. Well, if it is, it's telling you something, that maybe that is the right business for you. If you get to the end of the 6 steps and you're not sure that even being self-employed is right for you, do the 6 steps again. And if you get to the end of the 6 steps a second time and you're still not sure if running your own business is right for you, don't do it. Don't buy a franchise. Go out and join the world of employment. There's no shame in being employed by somewhere. It's just a different model, a different way of earning money. But it doesn't suit everybody being self-employed. So it's really important that you understand that. And make sure, as I said before, that you follow the franchise model and that you make sure you've got enough money to actually buy the franchise in the first place. And that will get you to your right decision. Finally, where to do research? Well, franchise web portals are very useful. There's lots of them. Franchise Direct is an international franchise portal. Franchisesales.com, businessforsales.com, Franchise Expo, which franchise. There's lots and lots of them. And there'll be, in your country, ones that are good for you. But they're a good place to start for doing your analysis. Franchise magazines are very, very useful, and they feature different types of franchising that will give you a good idea of what's available. And I would recommend Global Franchise for you in your part of the world, because they will look at franchises from all over the world, which again is very, very useful. Franchise exhibitions, franchise expos and shows are a very good way of going to see franchises that are available. What's really good about these is you get to speak to the franchisor face to face. Now, they've been cancelled a lot because of COVID, but there is an international franchise exhibition in the UK on the 1st and 2nd of October in Birmingham. So that's one you could perhaps think of if you're thinking of coming to the UK. But they hold them in America, in China, and I'm sure they do in your part of the world too. But franchise exhibitions are good where you can actually speak to the franchisor themselves. Social media, a lot of franchisors will have their own social media portals. And again, you can follow, sometimes you can follow a franchisee, which is really good to see what a day in their life is like. And then industry specific sources. So if you're interested in a franchise that works with children, they tend to use a lot of Facebook for advertising their business. But if you want an accountancy franchise or an architectural type franchise, then they may have an industry specific portal or exhibition again. And they, again, is a good place to look for to do your research. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Any questions? Hand you back to Mr. Khalid.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. That was indeed a very insightful presentation with a lot of great thoughts about the franchise and how to, then especially the 6 steps of choosing a franchise. So thank you so much for that, sir. I have a couple of questions lined up here for you. So the first question is about following the model. You talked about following the model and how important it is. The person is asking, following the model is important. Is it more important in some sectors more than others?
In franchising, if I was a bank now talking, the bank would say exactly the same. Follow the franchisor's model. It's the best way to illustrate it is like if you ever make a cake and you follow a recipe and you decide to leave the eggs out because you know better, you won't have a very good cake. It won't be the same, and it might be a disaster. So when you start a franchise, very often you don't know much about the business. And so following the franchisor's model is really important. I used to have 125 franchisees, and I used to say to them all, until you know better, do exactly what this model says. And then eventually, when you've been in the business a long time, you may have some good ideas that we can share with everybody.
Perfect. The second question, Mr. O'Neill, is do you feel that there is a pandemic or a shift in the landscape of franchise due to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes,
in the UK,
some franchise.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
In the UK or globally? I mean, I think that's the question here.
I think,
both in the UK and
well, definitely in the UK, there's been a shift, and it must be the same everywhere. But with COVID-19, it's affected different businesses differently. So a lot of cleaning franchises, believe it or not, have absolutely taken off and done incredibly well, because now they can charge a lot of money. Everybody wants a deep clean. Everybody wants something cleaned 50 times. And cleaning franchises, believe it or not, have really, really done well. Over here in the UK, we have a lot of what we call domiciliary franchises, which are care franchises. So not so much care homes, but visiting people in their home, that the elderly and the infirm and the sick. Again, they've really taken off during COVID, which is good. Everyone has to wear PPE, obviously, but they've done well. Things like restaurants haven't done so well during COVID, because a lot of them are closed for a long time.
Yeah.
But we're coming out of it slowly but surely, hopefully.
Thank you so much. I think, I mean, speaking of the situation in Saudi, I mean, I would say the penetrative manner that the Ministry of Health here in Saudi followed, I think it helped a lot of small businesses maintain their presence, especially by allowing delivery services and stuff. But definitely there was an impact. But like you said, inshallah, hopefully and slowly we're getting out of this situation.
Consultancy businesses have been good too, because 40% of the franchises in the UK now run from home.
Absolutely.
And if you're running it from home, you're okay.
So it was a blessing for some, I would say, some sectors, not so much for others, but for a lot of the sectors, I think a pivot happened, like in terms of how they conduct their businesses.
Yeah.
So Matt, let's move to the next question. It's also about following the model. The question here asks about following the model. Do we need to cater for cultural differences? Can we at least have a room for cultural differences by following the model? So is it operational, purely operational, or we can have some room of autonomy, if I may say?
So with following the model, the franchisor will know what's needed for diversity. So the franchisor will know if we need to adapt for different cultures and different backgrounds, different behaviors. And so that's something the franchisor will know, but they'll also know whether deviating from the model for different cultures and backgrounds is something that works or doesn't work. Particularly, and a really, really good example of that is some cultures are very, very entrepreneurial, and they, particularly if they've come from a back where they've had their own shop, and all they're used to doing is selling exactly what works for them in their shop. But if you buy a franchise where you're limited in what you can sell, you can't start adding all of the products that you want to. Wow. So, but you should know that before you buy the franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes down to the due diligence process that you, I would say, extensively talked about during the presentation. Moving on, I found this a very interesting question, Mr. O'Neill. It says, how can we deal with seasonality in terms of franchise? Like, I think you talked about this, I would say macroeconomical indicators and whether the industry is saturated or not. But when it comes to seasonality, how we deal with it in terms of franchise?
Well, again, the franchisor will know the answer to the question, and there's so many different franchises. It's really difficult to answer. But let me give you a really funny example, a true example. Here in the UK, can you believe there is a franchise for Christmas decorations?
Wow. And it's like, yeah, the demand
talk about seasonal. there is a window of opportunity where they are so incredibly busy.
Wow.
And then there's months when they're very quiet. And yet it still works.
That's the definition of seasonality, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on, what is okay? That's a very interesting question, especially I mean, you came from a background with working with banks. It says, what is the right balance between equity and debt? Like if I'm a franchisee who wants to get a franchising right, shall I go ahead and like leverage it with debt all over, or should I have some equity in that as well?
It's a very personal question, really, because everybody's different. I mean, one of the questions I get asked all the time is, what's the cheapest franchise that earns the most amount of money? And I always say, well, you know, how long's a bit of string? So it depends on the individual. What you don't want to be what to do is the biggest disaster is to be in business and you've worked out you've got enough money to last you 10 months and you get to month 9 and you start to panic.
Yeah.
So my advice is make sure you've got enough money to buy it, run it, and to you know, fund yourself until you can take a wage. And if you can get money from the bank, well then that, I mean, money's cheap at the moment and it's good to get it if you can.
Yeah. I think it's like very much like you said, Matt. It's very much I would say personal, and it depends on the situation, circumstantial, if I may say.
What's quite popular these days is a lot of very wealthy franchisees in fast food are buying multiple unit franchises. So for example, McDonald's, KFC, and Domino's Pizza, they won't just own one store, they'll own 10, 20, 30 stores.
Yeah.
And now they diversify into across brands as well, which is interesting.
Very. So let me go to the next question. It says here, Mr. O'Neill, what is the ideal size of a brand in terms of if I'm gonna basically try to get the franchising right of a brand? To you personally, what is an ideal size of a brand? Would it be few units, or would it be like something that is
okay?
Yeah.
So if you take a brand that's got very few franchisees, you should pay less because there's a much greater risk. But it is a two-edged sword because you might get in early and you might be able to grow a business, and you may become one of the more successful franchisees because you bought it early. But the brand may also not last, and if they don't last and don't exist 2 years down the line, it's a disaster. So it's a little bit of a catch-22 type situation. For me, I would, if I was investing my money, I'd like to see the franchise. I'd like to be able to substantiate that it works. And in most franchise networks, Mr. Khalid, you find that you get the top 10% that are doing very well, the bottom 10% that are doing terribly or very new and they've just started, and then the middle bit that's doing everything else. And so what you want to find out is what's the average business that they're earning, what they're turning over. But for me, I'd like to be able to verify it. So there's not, you know, if there's 50 franchisees, it's not just 5 people that are working really well. It's 30 people doing really well. And so whatever that ratio looks like.
I think it gets you the answer, right? That sort of, I would say, segmentation of what's how many franchisees are doing well versus others would were not doing so well. I think that's all in regards to the questions, unless you've received things that have. Let me check. All right, I think no, that's about it. I mean, final, if you don't mind, Mr. O'Neill, giving us some final remarks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, if you're looking to buy a business and buy a franchise, it can be one of the best ways of doing it, and you can have a lot of fun and really enjoy the journey, which is important. If you're not sure what to do, or you didn't catch all of the answers, I'll just flick to this last slide quickly. You can go on to the franchise seminars, which are franchise-seminars.info. There's 14 videos that cover all the things that we spoke about this afternoon, and that might be very useful for people. Or contact me if somebody wants to be mentored. If you're looking to buy a franchise, particularly in the UK, you want to be mentored through the process, this business down here, Franchise Matchmaking Services, is useful.
All right, sir, if you don't mind me asking a question, that's a question from me personally. When do you think a brand is ready for a global expansion? Like, when is it? I would say 100% mature to be experiencing a global expansion opportunities with franchise, obviously.
It really depends on the brand. For example, the brand I used to work with is Expense Reduction Analysts, and they started in Australia, moved over to the UK, branched out into America, branched out. The UK was the absolute flagship. Then they went into Europe, and it's quite new in some parts of Europe. Just been launched in the UAE as well. And that's because the type of business is consultancy in cost reduction. Now, if you take the business I had, which was vending chocolate bars, it was okay in the UK. It's not often very sunny here. But if you go to a hot country, you'd end up with hot chocolate in these packets. So it does depend on the business.
That is snack in the box, right, sir?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Mr. O'Neill, it has been really utterly a great pleasure having you with us today. Thank you so much for the great insights. Thank you so much for such a great wisdom that you shared with us today. A 21-year experience summarized in just a few, I would say, a few minutes. To me, I really enjoyed talking to you today and being part of this panel. It has been a great pleasure again, sir, and an honor to have you today, and looking forward to cooperating with you and obviously attending expos in the UK and globally together, hopefully, inshallah, very soon. Thank you so much again, and wish you a wonderful day, and see you very soon, sir. And
thank you very much. And if you want any help with running workshops on franchising, then by all means, please contact me. I'll be very happy to help.
Looking forward to welcome you in the kingdom soon.
Yeah, lovely.
Thank you so much. Cheers. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.